Good morning, everybody. It's Saturday morning. I guess this is the first Saturday in November. I always look forward to Saturday mornings because I get to plug in with so many people from around the country. And I was excited to see their faces. When I was talking to someone before this started, when this call, it's been going on for several years, and uh, how much it's grown and how much we average in the numbers of people. It's watching the company go into what I call momentum. And the gentleman I've got today got real short notice. As I love you, I always tell everybody these calls are designed not unless we've got a specific subject we're going to go into. We really shoot from the hip and kind of hear from the heart of how someone got started. And I don't know if Reese even knows this story. Before I ever met Reese, Kristen came back, and I don't even know where she met your wife.
Puerto Rico.
To Puerto Rico. Well, she was one of
Yeah.
the original Puerto Rico trip. When my daughter made the decision that even though she'd been using our products for many years, if people don't know, I'm Kristen White's dad. That's what I think I've become in this company. Kristen White's dad. I used to be Chris Doyle, and everybody knew who my daughter was. Now it's the other way around. But at any rate, when she came back from Puerto Rico, she had met these group of ladies, and one was Reese's wife, Ashley, and she just couldn't get over how they just had this bond. I don't even know what to say. They text, they talk, and they just become great friends. And they had a special bond, I guess, because of the Puerto Rico trip. I don't think there's any question those groups still has a special bond from that particular trip. And I think that trip is very important to people to realize. There was a good group there, and a lot of them's lives have dramatically changed. Kristen's one of them, Reese and Ashley are another. And here's the other part. There was a couple probably there that are not, and they may not even be in the company anymore. And see, what you're going to find out in life, in this company, and anything in life, there is going to be those that finish the race because most people want this to be a sprint. They want to get in and get rich by Christmas. This is a marathon. And I learned that early on, mainly because of my business background. Reese and I are a lot alike in two ways, and then the opposite in others. One is Reese was extremely skeptical about the industry, beyond words, we both were. But in his case, his wife started the business, and I was somebody just starving. Reese had a really good job, and I won't go into that, but he didn't need this. He was doing this. He started out, and he even told me for a long time, well, I'm not ever going to get serious, but she loves this, and these products are great. He's going to make a little extra money. And long and short of it is everything changed. And bottom line is now Reese has become very serious about the business. And so, Reese, if you don't mind, just kind of tell us what you do. You hadn't completely quit, but I know what your day job is and what you do. Because people a lot of times think people join this industry are people that are destitute. I mean, I hate to say that, but I was that person. I guess that's the reason I get that attitude. I was hurting, and we were lost everything. So we were starting over. In your case, you and Ashley had really good positions, made good money. So tell us a little bit about how before you got into the industry, how life
Yeah,
was.
yeah, I was actually had a great job. Still kind of have that job. It's more of a consulting job now. I don't have to go into the office anymore, only when I want to, which is nice. And I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I worked my way through, through sales, things like that, all the way through spending a lot of time in compliance and sustainability within a seafood. I was in a seafood company, still am. But it's a large shrimp company. We do shrimp around the world. So if you've eaten shrimp from Whole Foods or Winn-Dixie or Fresh Market, that's our shrimp. But building that business and helping build that business over time, it became, yeah, I became an executive in that company probably 2010. And I've just been steadily doing that, making good money, but we were never getting ahead. And I was working 70 hours a week would probably, I would say, would be a light week, always on call. If anything ever happens at the plant or anything like that, I would have to be the one up there. I was doing, there was just a lot of time spent there. I wasn't able to travel. Ashley loves to travel. That's the reason she start Partner Co was that she wanted to go to Tahiti. That was the whole reason we went real hard at it, or she went real hard at it, was to go to Tahiti. But I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to. We would go on maybe a vacation here and there, and Ashley would go, but I would never get to go because I had to be here, or we didn't have the money. Every vacation I went on, I'll never forget our fifth anniversary. We went to Hawaii, and the whole time I was looking at my phone at the account. Okay, this is what I have budgeted for this trip. We can't spend more than that. We can't, so it was literally we could not even enjoy our time in Hawaii, or I couldn't. Ashley and Soph were having a blast. I couldn't enjoy it, but that was just me. I was always worried about money. We just didn't have that financial stability, even though we both made good money. Ashley was working 4 jobs at the time just because she liked to travel. So her extra jobs got her where she could travel. Um, but then, when this industry came knocking, when this company came knocking, uh, I was totally against it. Everybody's probably heard that story, to a point, but a lot of it was Ashley's drive to have better, to want to travel, to free up my time. And she was always like, when the drops started working, and she was like, she even said that if the drops work, this could be if you could lose weight on these drops, anybody could lose weight on these drops, because you've tried, and I've seen you lose weight and gain it back, lose it and gain it back, and just go through, like, I've seen this. If these drops work for you, this is our ship. And I'm like, whatever, I'm still making fun of it at that point. But I ended up losing the weight on the drops. I ended up, she ended up buying me a guitar. That's the story. She bought me the guitar. I'm like, hey, that's not our budget. That's not in our budget. And she looked at me dead in the eyes and said, Ashley, she's a fireball. She said, I got paid from Partner Co. I can buy what I want to with that money. That's my money. And I want to buy that guitar. So that I was like, well, that's the point. That, like, what are you making? Let me see this. I'm very analytical. And that's when I broke it down and said, okay, I want to see this. And my whole intentions, Chris, was because I was smarter than all these people in this industry. I'm a corporate guy. I'm smarter than these people. These people are crazy. They're weird. I'm going to poke holes all in this compensation plan. And so, that was my intention when I started studying. And then when Todd came over, my intention was to find the snags, to find where this is not going, like, and I couldn't. And I sat there and got to know Todd, and just, we built a relationship. And that day, I started trusting Todd completely. Like, it was something. It was a God moment, no doubt. God put this in our lives to free up a lot of things for us. And so, from that point, there was probably still a couple of weeks that I'm still trying to poke holes. And Todd's like, okay, you need to go to Puerto Rico. And it's a girl's trip, but I need somebody to drive. So me and Eric Gray went so we could drive the ladies. So we were the only guys on this trip. But that trip was everything to me. It was everything to Ashley. Like you said, for Kristen that was that point for her when she really pivoted from being a user of the products and selling at her gym to really going on a business. She made that declaration right there, and then it was kind of a friendly competition between us and Kristen. Even Todd it was a competition one time. Hey, whoever gets to, I think it was officer first or senior officer or whatever it was, whoever gets there first, I'm going to pay for you guys to go to have a place on the beach for a week or whatever. And Kristen beat us, but I don't know that Kristen ever took that trip. She worked so hard at her gym too, but just that kind of piece, and Todd's just knowing the vision on that, and then just following that for us. Once I started seeing the money roll in, and I started seeing, okay, this isn't some get rich quick scheme. This is something you've got to put time and effort into. Yes, there are some people that can get lucky, but somebody is building that business. Somebody is doing that. So, and that's what we have to do. That's why you're on this call. Somebody has to build the business. If Todd would not have gone around Walt and Robin, had not gone around Robin, if Kim Gray and Ashley Rowland hadn't started talking to Ashley, it's gotten a hold of Kristen, gotten a hold of all these girls that were coming on, the system of growth would have never been born. If Todd would have said, or Kim, if they would have said, well, that's so and so signed that, Robin signed up Ashley Antley, we'll let Robin handle that. Ashley would have never known what she had on her hands, but Ashley Rowland and Kim Gray just started calling her, and they went and met. And Ashley's first thought was, oh, they're just trying to sell me more products. But then she quickly saw, okay, maybe there is something to this, and I'm going to try this really. And that's where she learned about Tahiti. And she said, okay, I'm going to try to go to Tahiti. And that's what she told me. We're going to Tahiti, or I'm going. She said, I'm going to Tahiti, because, to be honest, I never thought we would, even after seeing the comp plan, I was like, there's no way both of us will make it. And Ashley worked her butt off to start with and got us where we both actually won Tahiti in our first 8 months in the company. So it was absolutely outstanding, and got to go on that trip of a lifetime, get to, and it just, from there, it's just our lives have changed. It doesn't mean there hasn't been ups and downs, man. I mean, there's been so many ups and downs in this business, but that's what it is, Chris. You're an entrepreneur, have been all your life. Business is up and down, up and down. It's what the trend that we want to see. We want to make sure those lows are not as low as the last low, and those highs are higher than the last high. And that's the trend you want to be on. So don't always just, one of the things so many people look at is my business is declining. I'm not selling as many boxes of drops. And that's where, Chris, to be honest, a lot of the people that were involved during that first time, the first kind of system of growth starting to grow, a lot of them focus so heavy on the boxes and never learning to build a team and never learning to present, never really plugging into that side of the business. They just basically had a retail business, and then when that slowed down, that business. So there's another side of this to the big money is building team and building through people. you know, everybody that's, Todd or whoever it is so deep in our organization to people we can't get to, and they're working with those because everybody knows. And the same thing for us. We're 7, 8 generations deep working because we've got to get to that next person and got to get them rolling. We've got to help that newest person. This company is so set up in a way that if you help the new person, you help everybody. And that is such a unique thing in the corporate world, in multi-level marketing. It is very unique, but the fact that you're helping that person down there, you're benefiting from it, and so many other people are benefiting from it, is really what kind of changed my mindset in this whole thing.
I want to talk about it in the beginning because, Reese, I know this about you because we were doing a Super Saturday in Jackson, Tennessee, and I know you remember that. I don't think I knew you very well. We may have met, but what I know about Reese is that once he decided he was going to do this, he plugged in, and he didn't just barely plug in, guys. I guess it's 9 hours. Am I right? 9 hours from Destin to Jackson, 8 to 9 hours drive.
Yeah, at least it's more like 11 probably.
Yeah,
from where I'm at. Yeah,
from where you live to where. So I want to make this point. He didn't have anybody on his team up here. So I said, I got a guy's going to come and helping us with the sound. He wasn't here for the sound. He was here to learn. He was trying to hear what other people were doing. Am I right? I want you to talk about that a little bit, how you plugged in.
Yeah. So Chris, my learning style is I have to, it's a visual, it's a sound, it's kind of a mixture of things. I have to be involved and in the environment. So the first thing I did, right after Puerto Rico, is I started, like, Todd's like, well, I do these Zooms. He told me about the IPA Zoom, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get on. And when I got on that IPA Zoom, I'm like, Todd said this is a great Zoom. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna be coachable, and I'm gonna be on this IPA Zoom. So I just made the commitment, that I'm gonna be on for this first month, and I'm gonna, kind of see, because if it's a waste of my time, I'm not gonna do it. But I quickly saw it was not a waste of my time on the IPA call. I was also, during that same time, I would call Todd in the morning, or I'd send him a text and say, hey, what Zooms do you have? Again, I need to see what people are doing that are successful, and I'm going to emulate that. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. I may make some little adjustments that's more personal to me, but I'm going to do what people are doing that are successful. So I'm going to follow successful people. So that's what I did. Todd was the only one I knew at the time. He was my mentor at the time. Still, I still jump on his Zooms when I need a refresher. I still do that. But I jumped on almost every Zoom I could, Chris. Even if I was at work, I would just put it in the background. I would share my story. Up to that point, I'd lost probably 30 pounds and all that. So I would share. So I got used to saying that. It was an opportunity for me to say 2 or 3 minutes worth of something in a presentation and get comfortable with that. So I just did that. I mean, I was probably on 50 to 60% of his Zooms for the first 4 months through the summer, just listening or pitching in before I was, comfortable doing my own. But when I came to Jack, and I made a commitment and still have that commitment, I travel a certain amount per month. Basically, I have it kind of scheduled out that way. At first it was a little bit, I was probably a little overkill, but I had to learn it real quick. And luckily my family understood that, and it's been blessed. But now I just I want to make sure I'm at the events I want to make sure, I want to hear, like I'd heard about Chris Dole. I met you at PXP right before that. We were at PXP and we talked at we were sitting there and I was watching you. You actually were recruiting the bartender. First time I met you, I came up and I said, "Hey, you're Kristen's dad." Is what I could, and you're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and we talked for a few minutes. But I watched you recruit, and I knew your success, and I'm like, okay, that's the kind of stuff I have to do because I watched that. So just being around that. So to me, going to the meetings, watching other presenters, um, that's why, and watching other people tell their stories, watching how different people do it. I got to know Brent Palmer. Then I started, even though Brent's not, anywhere financially connected to me, I'm like, Brent, hey, can I jump on one of your Zooms from time to time? And so Brent was gracious and would let me get on there, and it would kind of give us a thing to talk about, learn the lines of sponsorship, things like that. But I would watch his, or I would go on one of the mass Zooms that everybody was doing, and I would watch how all these people presented. And that's just big. That's how I learn. I'm going to emulate the successful people. So, and I still do that with the new people that come on. I get on their Zooms. I encourage others to get on their Zooms. And and I will say one thing about the IPA, Chris, and plugging in. When in that first month that I was talking about, the people that we were bringing on that were complaining about not having success were the people that were not on the IPA call. The people that were having a success, I mean, it was almost 1-to-1. If they were on the IPA call, they were having success. If they were not, they were not having success. It was a game changer. It still is a game changer. Yes, we get some repetitive stuff on there and things, but sometimes you need to hear that over and over. But there are nuggets every single day. That's where we all get to kind of meet each other, things like that. I see Cindy here. Cindy has always kind of been involved, but she wasn't. She was off in the background for a while. So I kept hearing about Cindy or Susan Frank. Susan Frank wasn't doing it. You guys weren't doing it yet. But when they came on the scene, it's like, okay, I'm going to learn from them. I'm going to watch Cindy's business presentation. I'm going to try to sneak on Susan Frank's stuff. Like that's what I'm just going to emulate successful people, and that success. That's where a lot of our success comes from. My slideshows are not my own. I'm stealing everybody else's, and that's just what's so great about this company because we can do that.
Well, I think we all steal from people if you're going to do good at this. I mean, let's face
Yeah,
that. We share, and that's what why better together has been the slogan of the company. Is we work together. Doesn't mean everybody's going to work together but you'll be amazed the top leaders in this company, they really work hard to do things together. Reese, I'm going to ask you a question because you talked about is this your first experience to really work network marketing? I know
yeah,
that
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
a couple stuff before, but
yeah, Ashley had done, some clothing stuff and some shakes, and she really did it to do the discount. But the one thing that I saw, and why I was kind of against the whole, somebody mute. The whole thing
yeah,
the whole thing that I saw was that in those, and why it kind of was just confirming what I'd heard about the industry. Basically, they signed her up, and then I'd never heard. She was never on a call. She didn't even know really who sponsored her. She didn't know how the business worked or anything like that. All she knew to do was order some product and get it for herself, and then try to tell her friends a little bit about it. She didn't know how to recruit. There was nothing like that in these companies, and these were big time network marketing companies. And I'm like, yeah, that just kind of confirmed in my mind what I'd heard. But when I saw how much was poured into Ashley just off the bat, she got on this Saturday call when Todd was doing her and invited her on the call. She was so nervous and all that. And I'm
remember
like,
that.
wow, it was like 200 and something people on this call or whatever it was that day. And so she was really nervous. And then they invited her on the corporate call. I mean, I'm like, and at that time, I mean, she was doing all right selling boxes, but she wasn't, but the people just poured into her. And that's just key that I saw. Like all of a sudden now she has more help than she knows what to do with. And that's a difference I saw. The fact that Todd him and Ashley got in the car, rode over here, which is 2 hours away because we are literally 2 hours from the closest anything. And they come over here, we sit down and have dinner and start building a relationship there. I mean, that right there spoke volumes itself, just that they would take the time. Okay, is it that they see something in Ashley? Is this the way the whole business, whatever it is, so seeing that and then going to the meetings and seeing that You know, being in when I came to Jackson, Tennessee, that was kind of my first Super Saturday. In fact, I had no clue what a Super Saturday was until that weekend. And I said, okay, I'm going to drive up there. And I had to be, you know, I'm not proud of this, but I had to be a little untruthful in my job and say, hey, I can't come in today. I didn't say why or anything like that, but I couldn't be in pictures or anything like that, you know. But when I got up there, you know, it was, again, not a team that I was associated with other than just knowing Kristen from Puerto Rico and Todd being up there. That was it. I just wanted to go learn. Um, Anyways, but that's just it's just a different place here than anywhere corporate, any other network marketing company. And that's the thing that everybody says, whether they've been in the industry or they've been in corporate or they've been in small business, when they come here, it's just different. It's a different feel. That's why one of the things I will always encourage as you're growing as a leader, if you ever get the opportunity to go to a Discover Partner Co in Utah or go to Puerto Rico, if you get that question, somebody says, hey, do you want to go? There is no, let me check my schedule, anything. It is, yes, I want to go, because those two places, those two things where you can connect in a small setting with the owners, with the corporate structure, with the corporate people, with Katie, with everybody, you go, because that will elevate your business. That will change your life when you go there. It changed my life in Puerto Rico. I see it when we go to Utah and we take people. I see it change their lives instantly. You know, the group that we have working so good now in Birmingham and Troy, the naturopath group, they are going crazy, but they are doing so good. But they were kind of on the edge until they got to Utah. I got them to Utah. They went to Utah. Two ladies went to Utah, and that was Connie and Dee. And then they just rocket shipped after that. It was like, okay, they have both been in network marketing in some major companies. They still were, and they quickly chose here. That same Utah trip, Cindy had a bunch of people there, some people there, and now they're rocking and rolling. Those trips just are so huge to just when you can get that. And so I tell everybody. I think Tom Cooley the other day, I was like, he was like, Todd said he had a question to ask me, and I told Tom, I said, your answer is yes. Your answer is yes. You don't even have to know what the question is, because I knew what he was going to ask him. And I was like, your answer is yes. Just go find a way to do it. Anyways.
And I think that there's no question that there's a time when you get into the business, and then when these events make the business get into you, you begin to understand what you got your hands on. And a lot of times, as you're, like you said, you're a corporate American guy, and let's face it, this guy wasn't making little money. He was doing well. And in the world of corporate, even though he didn't own that company, he was one of those earners that's why he's talking about how many hours he worked, because he made big bucks. They don't pay people the big bucks and they're going to work you hard. Here's what I want to point out. It took a time for him. He's very rare, by the way. Most people making the kind of money Reese made will never make that transition. They can't get past what he learned. That was, there's something better. His wife pushed him over that hump, and now he sees it. So what I want to point out, one thing I want to ask, because you went through some different things. So let's just say you signed me up. You said I was recruiting the bartender, guys. That sounded bad, doesn't it? I'm at the bar, but I was. So I want to make a point about that before we go to the next question. Guys, when people ask me who's a prospect, guys, everybody's a prospect if they can fog a mirror. That doesn't mean you need to throw up on them. It means you make a connection. I've got teams everywhere due to things happening by connection, but so many people want to push it over. That bartender said, about 4 people have already asked me about this. I remember what you're talking about. And I said, well, I don't want to talk to you about it. I just want to share it with you later and send you some information. Well, I got the number because I was very subtle. And so at these events, everybody gets hammered. But it's not just there. So Reese, let's talk about one other thing. As you talk about prospecting, you heard me doing that. I want to talk about what this thing. I'm brand new. Let's just say you did sign me up. I'm somebody sitting there and overheard your conversation. It's like, I might need to make some money. You've got me so tell me what you're going to do first. What are we going to do? Am I going to lose weight? What do you want to do with me to begin with?
So definitely. So I'm always gonna. The first thing is the products for me. It's you got to be a product of the product. I know that's kind of cliche to say, but to be true. So to do anything, you know, and I never thought I'd be passionate about shrimp, but I was, especially learning the background of what our food system is and things like that. But you have to be passionate if you want to be successful. You can fake it for a little while, but eventually that passion, if you don't have it, if you don't have that belief, it wears away. and you suffer, even if you could, or maybe even considered a little successful, you could be so much more if you have that passion and belief. So when you take the products, you have the results that you had, Chris, or whatever. So yes, it's going to be okay. Find the product that's going to work for them, that we're going to see. It's not always the drops for me, depending on it, especially from my business prospecting standpoint, which I do a lot more of. Ashley does a lot more of the drop conversions, which I still do, but but I do direct approaches business wise. So business, I'm going to, a lot of times that's going to be MOA, or even some of the protein and stuff I've really started using as well. 'Cause, most of the people that I'm approaching like that are guys, my age. Going to be, if they're overweight, of course, the drops and advantage. But a lot of times, MOA is going to be my number one thing that I'm going to get them on, because that's a product that they will have success with right off the bat. It's one that just works so well, so quickly. Same thing with the drops. So yeah, products are what I'm going to be, but I'm going to get them started. You're doing this as a business, even if you're coming in, if you're a consumer, you need to lose weight. Okay, I'm still going to really focus on getting you started correctly. That was one of the first things I kept hearing. The start stops most people. People are so scared to post. So, Chris, one of the first things I'm doing with people when they sign up with me is I'm getting them to do 7 days of posting, because that's absolutely crucial to get somebody over that hump. So 7 days of posting, even if they're doing this as a business and they're not taking drops, I'm getting them to do the 7 days of posting, because that is what works. And when they kick back, hey, I don't want to focus on the drops or something like that, I'll say, great, you don't have to, but here are, and I'm analytical, but here are the stats of the people. Here are the money that are made of people that have never been in the industry, that have never had success. And I don't know if Christy Walsh is on here or not, and I don't want to call her out or anything, but Christy is one of the best in our organization. But she had been doing network marketing for a very, very long time. And she had done all the right things and was doing all the right things, but hadn't made a lot of money. When she hit here, she skyrocketed. And I mean, to the point that she was retired within their first year. And she's making more than she had ever made before. And when Christy, yeah, Christina's on here. So
I just made
so
her
sorry.
co-host, so you can call on her and let her
Yeah,
answer
yeah, Christy.
questions.
I'd love Christy to share that just
That's
piece of it,
really
because
going to, nobody just don't give you any notice, Christy. I was told you were a good person to have on, so I'm going to give you notice right now. You could be a guest
so
sometime.
so
So we're
I'm
going to
gonna
unmute you, Christy.
yeah, I'm going to preface this just a little bit too, because one of the things, for me, one of the hard is, I'm a believer in Christ. That's first in my life. So literally wanting to help people is one of the biggest things in this business for me, is seeing other people. And then what's so great about it is we benefit. It doesn't matter power line, pay line. We still benefit when these, even if they're not even in your organization, I promise you, helping the new person succeed will change your life and change others' lives. So I was spending time with Christy. Todd was spending time with Christy. Ashley was spending time with Christy. Joni and Chris, they were new, but but we had all this going, and Christy reluctantly started posting, and she took off. But Christy, just kind of come from that standpoint that you had been in the industry but not had a lot of success, so to speak. But now especially compared to the success you have now.
Oh, for sure. I can't turn my camera on because I'm getting ready to go to Medicine Hat. But yeah, like this came by surprise. And, like if I hadn't have had the support from all of you guys, I don't know where I would have been. And Mary Olson and I were just chatting about it yesterday and today, that if I hadn't have enrolled her as my first brand partner, and we hadn't have linked arms and just went for it full in, I don't know if we would have survived all the ups and downs in Canada. You know what I mean? Like it was such a big learning curve, but the nice thing about having Chris and Joni and you and Ashley and Todd and Ashley is that you guys poured into us. You were there 24/7, basically. If we had questions or concerns or were confused about something, And then the fact that Ashley just jumped on a plane, Ashley Rowland, and came, and we picked her up, had no idea who she was, really. And we traveled around the entire province, setting up meetings and just pouring into our team in Alberta. I mean, like, it was it was mind blowing. Like, when I look back at it and go, wow, like, this is something I've never experienced before. Because you are so right. In the other network marketing companies that I tried in the past, and I say try because boy, did I ever try. They would enroll me. I would grab whatever I needed. And then that was the end of it. Like, I had no guidance. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I tried doing trade shows and pouring into people, but I didn't have that community, that support. And then, when things started taking off and I saw my income rising, and I think the first moment was when I had to go pick Ashley Rowland up from the airport. I had a low tire. And so I went into the tire shop and he said, well, you can't drive anywhere on any of these tires. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm a single mom. I was cleaning houses. The most I had ever made in a year was 36 to 40,000. Like, and then I was like, wait a minute, it's Friday. I got paid from Partner Co. And so I slapped down that bank card and I paid for 4 new tires for my car and drove all the way, 6, 7 hours to pick up Ashley. And that's when I knew this is different. I was using my bank card instead of my credit card. I had met incredible people. I met someone to link arms with
Yep.
and travel around and pour into our people. So
Christy, I
if
want
it
to add
was,
something to what you just said, because I think we need to make a point here that's very important. Guys, so many times we get on a call and we hear about people's success. And one of the things that bothers me, because I've done this so many years, is they think that I made a lot of money here, which I have, but I've been doing this 24 years. And the linking arms with people and what Christy talked about, I want you to understand, sometimes we tend to forget what she just said makes a difference in somebody's life. She wasn't thinking about, you realize what she just said? She made less than $40,000 a year. And all at once, paying for tires at that rate was not an easy thing. But all
yeah,
at once, she was able to look and she had to, guys, we all forget sometimes that, we hear so many great stories about so many people making so much. Guys, changing a life is not necessarily making $25,000 that week. And we iterate it because we want to celebrate success. But Christy, your story right there is so powerful. You were able to buy the tires and you didn't have to
yeah,
figure out what you were going to do. You didn't think about what credit card you were going to put them on and pay for them over time, which cost you more money. You were able to buy tires. See what you all get the point here, why that's so
mhm,
important. That was
yeah,
now you're in and you really are thinking that, hey, I'm going to do this, right?
for sure. And that's when I knew that everybody needed to know not only about the drops, but about this business and the
Mhm.
system of growth. Because I didn't have a team, I didn't have anyone. I just enrolled, yeah, reluctantly started posting, got to Ultimate in 12 days, and just was, kept going. It took me a month to enroll my first brand partner. So everybody has to understand that, just because you're not, getting the action right away, it's going to come if you stay consistent. A whole month in the business before Mary came along and said, I know there's a discount, I'm going to enroll. But at that moment, I mean, she went to Ultimate within 11 days too. So I helped her do what I did. And that's when she started believing and trusting in me. And then I said, well, you got to meet Reese. You got to meet Chris and Joni. And that's when she believed that this could be done as well, because she had done these businesses in the past as well. So, I mean, what I've learned from this company and our products is dream bigger, because it's available to anyone if you just stay consistent and you link arms with cross lines, down lines, and your uplines.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving Noah. Reese, you want to ask her something because that's actually your person. So you were bringing her up. So I just kind of saw her. I said she's here. So
No, that's awesome. It means I have to talk a little bit less. No, it's all, but but I say that because there's others on this call. I mean, Carol and Brian are on here. People like that guys, if you don't, if, and I'm not saying this because, I'm special or Ashley's special or anything. This is all of us. This is everybody that we have I'm gonna so this is gonna go a little off course, but I'm gonna bring it back. Just hang with me. So when you look, if you're a believer, you know what it is to make disciples, things like that. But do you know there's a guy that we don't know his name that has impacted more people in this world for Christ than anyone else. And it's not who you think I'm going to say, but it's going to be tied to this person. So back in the early 1900s, well, this would have been, I don't remember exactly what year, probably 1930s or 40s. Two young boys were walking by a revival, a tent revival, and they want to go in, and they go in, and there's somewhat of a famous preacher at that time. He's is in North Carolina. He's preaching, and they couldn't find a seat, so they go to leave. And as these two boys leave, an usher comes up to them and says, "Hey, if you guys want to stay, if you guys want to hear, then I'm going to give you these two seats. Come sit, me and my wife, where we were sitting. We'll get up." They went and sat, whatever it was. He found them seats, got them a place to seat. That day, those two boys came to Christ. One of those boys was Billy Graham. The other one was his best friend. Had that usher not said, "Hey, boys, stop. Let me help you." Had that usher not done that, we don't know who that usher was. Billy Graham doesn't even know didn't know who that, but that's how Billy Graham came to Christ. If that would have never happened, look at the thousands of hundreds of thousands and millions that have come to Christ through that piece. It's the same thing here. It's the same mindset. Everything we do, we should do like that. We should do as Christ would do. So even in this business, it is about helping that person. It's not about our names being out there. It is about helping that next person, because that next person could be the explosion. It could be the explosion for Christ. It could be the explosion for your business. That next person for us was Chris and Joni. We just kept going. When we came to them, that exploded our business. It was unforeseen. Like, yes, they'd had success, but they'd had some struggles as well. And so coming into this, they weren't sure, even if this was the right fit for them, but they were coachable. They took our system. We spent time with them. Same. But so if Ashley and I would have never said yes, that would have the person we just talked to, Christy, that probably would have never happened. If Todd Rowland wouldn't have said yes years ago, Chris Dole wouldn't be sitting here right now. You see what I'm saying? So us just saying yes and pouring into people over time will just explode. That's what's so awesome about this, to see those legs start to grow out. And no, I can't do all that by myself. I didn't do all that by myself, but hey, that one yes changed somebody else's life, and their yes changed other people's lives. So we're changing others' lives by saying yes and by pouring into people and helping others. Sorry, I know that was kind of a rant, but
That's great. I love the story. And I'd heard that story before, and I think it's very relative. And you mentioned Todd joined the business. For those that don't know, I'm 27 levels below Todd in the first company. When I met Todd 25 years ago, and I joined that business, did not know Todd, and yet 27 people between us that quit, but it led to me that changed our lives, and we hope we've helped a lot of other lives change. I want to mention something that Reese, that you and Christy both mentioned on. You talked about she only got a brand partner after 30 days, but I want to talk about somebody being afraid to talk to somebody about the money side. I see this, and I overheard someone yesterday, and I'm like, she was talking about the wholesale account, and I'm not, by the way, use the boards, but I mean, when you've got somebody that you have a relationship with, it's an easy conversation when you already sold them some product to say, why don't you try to help me with some referrals? Help me with somebody enough I could help you make enough money to pay for your products. Because a lot of times people join our business just to pay for product. Some don't. That's what you got to clarify. Some join because Chris and Joni were serious when they decided to do the business. And when they decided, they'd already used the product. When they decided to do the business, they were serious about the business. Not everybody's going to be that way. Why don't you talk about that just a little bit, about not being ashamed of that it's a business?
yeah. So again, when I first started, I was it was a struggle, because again, where my mindset was. But seeing the stories, like we just talked about Christy Walsh and so many others in the team, and seeing their success for the health side, but the wealth side as well, just realizing what it's done for our lives is like, man, it's the same thing when it comes to Christ. It is life changing. It is eternal life. When it comes to this is life changing. It is time freedom to serve, to whatever you got to do. It is a way to. So for me, there's a passion there that everybody needs to know about this. Everybody, and so that's when the shame or being scared goes away. It's still sometimes cold call, but if I know somebody, just think about this. I'm gonna back up just a second. Just think about every conversation you probably will have today with a stranger, with somebody you know, is going to turn into one to two directions usually. They're either going to talk about their health. You're going to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" "Oh, my back's killing me," or "Man, I really wish I could lose weight like you lost," or things like that. So that you can just shut up, and they're going to allow you to it's going to give you the opportunity, because most of the time, especially when guys are talking and we're talking, it's going to be like, "So how's business going?" or "How is your job going?" And then there's always like, "Oh man, I'm working 70 hours a week. I'm not getting ahead." Those opportunities are there in almost every single conversation. And so when they pitch it back to me, "Well, how's it going with you?" "Well, I found this. I found Partner Code. Partner Code has changed." And then I just kind of give my story on that. I'm always waiting for that moment. And that moment comes up in almost every single conversation. You just have to be patient and listen to it. And just you're being direct, you're being attentive. So but you're also being intentional, even though it might not seem like it. You want, like you said, you don't want to just vomit all over them the information. You want them to be intrigued. So for me, when I'm talking to somebody business wise, whether it's for somebody else or for myself, it's always going to be, let them tell me where they're at in life. And then I'm going to come back with them with how this can change their life.
And the chat room's filling up. Well, listen to your prospect. And that's what you basically just said. Yes, listen, listen, listen. I want to ask you a question. How many people, I want you to put a heart in the chat if you think I'm correct. How many people you think went to bed last night and prayed for something to change financially in their life? That's, if you don't think that people within 50 miles of you, I was that person. I want to make this very clear, because a lot of times many people knew, I see people I don't know here. That's what you don't know was, all you see is someone, they tell you how successful they were. They do not tell you how to end at rope's end. 24 years ago, Chris Doyle was at rope's end. I lost my company. I lost my pride. I was broke. So this is coming from a guy who drove a Ferrari to work or a Porsche to work, and was driving literally a broken down Suburban with hail damage. Kristen told that story on a Zoom the other night. I want you to realize I was praying for something to change. I didn't pray for this. I didn't pick this. God did. Okay. And I usually don't say that. I'm just telling you, I bet that's the first time I've ever said it that way. Because I don't want to make it sound like you were praying for this. I'm not your savior. I'm someone
That's
who
right.
that prayed for something to change, and this kept falling on my doorstep. And I kept praying for, I wanted to be what I wanted to pray for. You remember, you ever felt that way? I want to pray for, okay, well, he sometimes answers your prayers, but not the exact way you
That's
planned
right.
them. So for me, this was that answer. So don't be scared to say to person, and when you're talking to them, but be sincere that, hey, things have changed for us financially. You don't have to talk about, do they want to change, unless they bring it up. Be very casual about it. They got to know you care. And I think that's where most people mess up. They get so aggressive. Just build a relationship. So Reese, what has changed since you started in the business? What happens now? I know how much has changed, but how long have you actually been in the business?
So I officially started, we went to, in June of 23 is when I went to Puerto Rico. So I really got involved at the end of June of 23, July of 23. So just, 2.5 years. Ashley started in March of 23. So not that long, but then again, it feels like a lifetime. It feels like I've been here forever, just because of the people and feeling like family. But Chris, you said, like, I was praying for, one of the things I can tell you, my specific prayer that I was praying is I want to be able to retire. I watched my dad work all his life and make really good money, but just through circumstances and everything, having to work. Why, he's got Parkinson's, he has to work. He had to work. I didn't want to be like that, but all I saw that was what my future held, because I mean, I tell the story and joke about it, but literally the amount of money I was putting into my 401k or my IRA, when I would check it, and you look on Edward Jones and you could keep up with, okay, if this is your bills when you're at this age or whatever, this is how long you can live if you continue. So mine was, if you continue to go at this rate, you'll be able to live 2 years after you retire. So 65 to 67, then you would be out of money. So I always thought I was going to, and I was praying so hard that God would put something in our lives that we would figure out a way to be able to retire. That's when this came in. But Chris, I did not, again, this was not what I thought it would be. Not at all. I thought it would be something to do with the shrimp company, something like that. That's what I was kind of praying for. But God had something else. And I really think it's because of the lives and the people that we got to know, and being able to open up. If it would have been the shrimp company or doing in the shrimp, I wouldn't have the time freedom that I had. That wasn't something I was praying for. I was praying for the retirement side of things. That's what I was praying specifically for. And God put this into our lives. And now I'm a consultant for the company and basically retired from that company. And literally just loving where God has put us. But it took months before I even saw that this was the answer to prayer, Chris. But
We all
anyways,
go through that, Reese. I mean,
yeah,
mine was probably 2 years in before it just finally dawned on me, because I was probably still looking for that other business. I
yep.
was just going to do this with Todd Rowe until I figured out what I was going to do. I was just going to make some money at this so I could figure out what I was really going to do. Well, it's
Yeah,
20
and that
years later, and I'm still going to, I don't really want to do.
and that's kind of what I told Ashley when she was like, "This could be our ship." I'm like, "Yeah, we could sell some boxes of drops. We can make some good money and put it back." But it wasn't going to be anything like, it was going to be good money for a couple of years, but tops is what I was thinking. But then I quickly saw. But what's changed for us is, like I said, I don't work. I don't work 70 hours a week at that job anymore. I'm able to really serve in our church, as helping them with our tech as we've been growing. We planted a church about 3 years ago, so I've been able to spend a lot more time doing that. I've been able to travel. Our family's been able to travel, and get to write all those travels off. Getting to go to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, and because Chris and Joni live down there, hang out with them for a week, and we get to write that whole trip off. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We went, so
By the way, it's not illegal, guys. They were business.
no,
So that is
that's it.
actually that's in the code. I mean, that's legal.
That's legal. So
I've done it for 25 years. I know that. So
yeah, so you never go on a vacation again. Everything's business trips, because man, you should be telling everybody about this. You should be growing your business, and everywhere you go. I mean, the first time I ever saw Ashley really like sell something was in the airport at San Francisco, and she had all of her MOA in her bag through TSA, and TSA opened up her bag like, "What is this?" And so Ashley pitched the TSA girl, and the girl bought a box of MOA right there. So, I mean, anyways, you just do this business everywhere you go. And people always, Chris, this is a little off too, but people always ask, okay, you're busy. Everybody, and guys, everybody is busy. That is life today. That is the world today. Everybody is busy, and everybody in their own mind is the busiest person. Just remember that everybody's always the busiest person. So when somebody tells you I'm busy, you don't go back and say, "Well, I'm busier and I can still do it." No, that you understand that, yes, in their mind they are the busiest person, but you show them just through conversation how you incorporate it in your life. People ask all the time, "How do you put this into your life?" Well, I'm passionate about it, so it's part of my life. Just it is part of, my identity is in Christ, but my worldly part of this thing is my family and partner co, and even and church. Those are all built of what Reese and Ashley's family are, and partner co is part of that. So it's not a struggle to it's not like I'm roping out an hour to talk with Chris today. It's just part of what we do. It's part of our normal life, just like going to a ball game or something like that. So there's that side. But the time freedom is huge for us. And then the money, being able to retire, we're totally, Chris, we had the fire, we had all that. We are totally, the only thing we have now, Chris, is a car payment. Now, when we build this house, we'll have a small house payment, but it's going to be very small compared to the house that we're building. It'll be hopefully paid off pretty quick. But those are things that I never would have thought happened in my life. I thought I would always have credit card debt. I would always have 2 car payments. I would always have this huge house payment, all this But man, it has changed, and God and like you said, it is an answer to prayer, not one that I expected, but it is an answer to prayer, and it continues to be that.
So many people take that as the norm these days, is that having house payments and having car payments and having credit card payments are the norm, when in actuality, that's why, you don't get out of debt. I mean, you want to get stopped, you want to figure out how your life will be better. Go calculate how much interest you spent last year. It'll blow your mind. And so that's one of the things I wrote down early on here when I finally decided to go all in the network marketing business. I wrote down, I just want to be debt free. And we accomplished that. And so those are things, but I've been doing this recently. Remember, 2.5 years, I've been 25 years. And so, guys, I hope you really got a lot out of this today. I hope you realize what Reese is just another person. Yes, very successful in business, but he's a person who made a decision. Does anything you got from what we heard today? He made a decision. He plugged in. Hope you listen to that. But other things he realized was he's not ashamed of what he does. And let's face it, that's something people are afraid to ask. Hey, we've got a way to make some money. Don't talk about dreaming big and getting rich. People start, like Reese said, I started so we make some extra money. Guys, it's okay. They'll change their goals as they go forward. Reese, one last thing. Giving somebody the parting ingenious that's made Reese and Ashley so successful. Tell me, what is the one thing that you would say you contributed besides God? I know you're giving credit to him, but what besides giving him credit? That's an easy out. I want you to
Yeah, that's an easy out.
besides that, what is because let's face it, I go by, I have a slogan. God feeds the birds.
Yes,
Not deliver the worms.
that's exactly
That's
right.
a favorite quote I have from someone that was one of my mentors who's passed away, but he told me that a lot. And I said, so I want you to talk about the last 2 minutes here. Tell me, what is it that you really, what do you use your tip for somebody to focus in?
Well, Chris, I'll spin off that because you're exactly right. God calls us to work. And I could go to scripture and show you all that, and I'm happy to do that at a different time. But God calls us to work, and He's going, He doesn't expect us to sit. He expects us to take care of people that maybe can't take care of themselves, things like that. But we have to take care of ourselves. He's going to reward that side of it, So work has always been a thing in my family, putting in the work. So my thing is one, believe in yourself first and foremost. Get your mindset right. We have been trained all of our lives, just like we have been trained to be in debt. We have been trained to go to college, to get into debt, to get a job in the corporate world. That's the only way. You can't do blue collar. You can't be an entrepreneur. You can't do these things. The American dream is dead, things like that. But when you step back and look, like Chris, when you said, if you get out of that loop, which is the credit and all that, and you get out of that, you can see a whole new world, the way it's supposed to be, the way God intended it to be, which is living free, not under debt. So inside of this, when somebody's coming on, and if I could just say one thing, is one, believe in yourself, find whatever you got to do to generate your mindset and change your mind. All right. The worst thing you can do for yourself, in my opinion now, and this is big for me because I was a huge movie and TV person and radio, is listening and watching things that don't expand your mind, that don't push you forward. Any of this other junk that's on TV that you're spending time, consuming, that's time you could be growing your mind. It is designed to hold your mind back. So change that mindset. Only put positive. Remember, Bible says what goes in the ears, what goes in, I mean, it's the little, what goes in your ears, what goes in your eyes, what you see is going to come. What comes out of a man is what is in his heart. And what you put in your heart is what you consume with. That's what you see, what you hear. So if you're listening to negative to all the time, the news all the time, things like that, you're going to be a negative person. Most people were negative people, and I was. It wasn't just that I was a skeptic, Chris. I was a negative person. I didn't believe I could do it because of what I've been taught. I didn't believe in this industry because of what I've heard. It was all negative mindset. So you have to change your mindset first. And I highly suggest do this book called Winning the War of Your Mind, or Winning the War in Your Mind. It is absolutely phenomenal, and it helps you start to work through that and start creating those neuro pathways. When you believe in yourself, the ups and downs get way, way easier. When you know that when you have positivity, when you have that positive mindset, you can make it through the ups and the downs. And no, this is a business. This is not a you're going to get paid every Friday the same thing. Some weeks are going to be low, some weeks are going to be high. But I can promise you, if you do this, as Christy said, if you do this with consistency over time, it will work for you. But you have to put in the work and you have to do it.
Well, I think those are strong words. I'm going to stop the recording.